Luis Enrique's PSG has radically changed the approach to modern football. Let's take a detailed look at why this team is currently the best in the world. Paris Saint-Germain has no fixed positions. This is a team where players swap roles multiple times within a single attack. Almost every player can perform in different areas of the pitch. The only players who rarely change their positions are the central defenders. The most obvious rotations happen when one of the holding midfielders, usually Vitinha, drops into the zone of the left fullback. Consequently, the left fullback pushes higher and mostly operates in the half-space area. Another frequent positional change occurs on the right flank, where the right winger can move into the half space, while the right fullback holds the width, or vice versa. The fullback shifts into the half space, and the winger stays wide. We should also mention that the central striker often drops deeper into midfield, and one of the midfielders pushes forward to occupy the striker's position. PSG's midfield triangle is extremely mobile. The players constantly rotate, confusing the opposition. Playing against such a fluid team is insanely difficult. It's constant movement, constant creation of passing lanes. Here we see an example where a midfielder is positioned as a central striker, while the striker is occupying the half space, ready to link up play. Notice how active the midfielders are in this phase. One drops deep to offer support between the lines. The second midfielder is ready to attack the space in behind and arrive at the far post. Here's another example of how the midfield triangle rotates. How brilliant is that? Another key feature is how aggressively these midfielders attack the depth, often from the half spaces. They frequently make deep runs from withdrawn positions. These runs are extremely hard to track because they start when the players are marked or positioned close to the opponent's midfield line. Yet they burst forward over a 20-meter distance. These late runs are almost impossible to defend because of the dynamic advantage they create. Here we see a midfielder attacking the penalty area. Interestingly, in this moment, right fullback Hakimi occupies the center forward position, while the right winger holds the width. This level of positional interchangeability exists absolutely everywhere across the pitch for PSG. Sometimes the midfield triangle even consists of two central midfielders and the right fullback. Similarly, the right winger can also drop into that role. And as I mentioned earlier, we often see a pattern where the left fullback pushes high into the half space and Vitinha drops into the left back zone. He's a master passer with excellent vision, perfectly suited to initiate play from that position. PSG frequently operates in a 3-1-6 structure during possession. It's also crucial to highlight how the midfield triangle functions in positional attacks. The three midfielders arrange themselves intelligently. One attacks the far post area, another makes a run into the near half space, while the third holds a deeper position to secure second balls and recover possession if the ball rebounds. Against teams defending in a mid to low block, PSG's fullbacks often push into advanced positions, sometimes operating like strikers and attacking the space behind the defensive line. Inter Miami defended very passively, and their front two, Messi and Suarez, were mostly bypassed by PSG simply throwing the ball in from a throw-in. Zero impact, zero intensity. To be fair, Suarez at least attempted to track back occasionally, but Messi was just walking around. This scenario repeated constantly. Inter Miami's first defensive line was practically non-existent, but perhaps that was intentional. Those two are supposed to create up front, but trying to defend with only 8 players against a top European side is pure suicide, which is exactly what we witnessed in this match. Paris Saint-Germain also applied constant pressing across the entire pitch. Their pressing never stopped for a second. We can see here how they completely trap Inter Miami in one area, leaving no options for short build-up play. The only outcomes are a long ball or a loss of possession, as shown in this example. And this pattern continued. Inter Miami simply couldn't play out from the back. PSG suffocated them completely. Here's another example where PSG players relentlessly press forward, and the Inter Miami player on the ball quickly realizes all his passing options are cut off. Both available outlets are already marked. He hesitates, takes too long to decide, loses the ball, which immediately leads to a goal. In this episode with the conceded goal, I also want to point out the Inter Miami player. Of course, not in a good way. Look at the player who scores the goal and where the Inter Miami player is positioned. They are right next to each other. But for some reason, the Inter Miami player decides to run towards the opponent with the ball, even though the situation is a 2 versus 2 on the flank and more or less under control. You're standing right next to the guy who's sprinting into your penalty area. Maybe, just maybe, you should be tracking him instead of blindly chasing the player with the ball from behind. And of course, it ends with a simple pass into an open goal, calmly finished by the PSG player. The third goal conceded by Inter Miami is the result of poor positioning by their defender. And now let's talk about the most beautiful goal of the day, the free kick goal. PSG executed a brilliant set-piece routine, though not without Inter's help, of course. First of all, I have to point out that Inter placed 3 players in the wall for this free kick, even though it was taken from a wide position. 3 players in the wall from that angle? That's overkill. In reality, even 1 or 2 players would be enough to block the shooting angle, considering the free kick was taken from a wide area. In addition, Inter placed 1 more player close to the wall to prevent a short pass or quick combination. Another detail, here's Lionel Messi, who is nominally defending his zone in front of the penalty area. But let's be honest, he's standing there more for show than for real defensive contribution. Look at Inter Miami's setup. 5 players lined up to defend against this cross. But here's the problem. PSG already has a 6-5 advantage at the far post, even before the ball is played. Why? Because 3 of Inter's players are stuck standing in the wall. If you had placed only 2 players, or even 1, in the wall, you could have at least had numerical equality at the far post. But no. Now watch João Neves. He's completely unmarked on the edge of the penalty area, preparing to sprint towards the far post. It's also worth noting that 2 PSG players are in an offside position, but they aren't meant to play the ball. Their job is to block the Inter Miami defenders, preventing them from tracking the far post runners. Vitinha delivers a perfect cross, and look how Pacho physically blocks a player, stopping him from defending the far post. João Neves makes a completely unchallenged run and fires a header into the net from point-blank range. Brilliantly executed routine, blocks, precise delivery, clinical finish. But let's be honest, none of this would have been possible without Inter Miami's defensive mistakes. Let me know in the comments. Do you think it was necessary to put 3 players in the wall for that wide free kick? This tournament continues to disappoint me, and as it goes on, the gap between European teams and teams from other continents becomes more and more obvious. Right now, this feels more like a friendly tournament with no real passion or desire from some teams. Share your thoughts in the comments. Does this tournament matter to you? Are you enjoying watching it? Or are you even watching it at all? And I'd love to hear your opinion. Will this new tactical trend of full-pitch positional rotations become the next big thing in football? Could it completely change the game as we know it? Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more in-depth football analysis.